Hey guys, this is the Wiggle Man, and welcome back to Wiggle's Miniature Workshop. So, new intro, eh? Ooh, exciting stuff. So you may have noticed that we actually did this as a part of a live stream series. So I'm now streaming on YouTube and twitch.tv/Wiggle987. If you'd like to get notifications about when I go live on Twitch and YouTube, feel free to join the Discord. The link is down below in the description. Not only is it there for notifying you of when I go live on Twitch and YouTube, but also I want it to be a place where you can post your work in progress on models that you might be working on. And who knows, maybe I'll even cover it on the channel, potentially give some feedback if you'd like it, or just show it off if I just think it looks cool. But on to what we're painting today. So we are painting Shroomie. I came across this model completely randomly whilst browsing through my mini factory, and I thought, you know what, after a demonic, vampiric, gross looking Batman that we painted for our previous video, go watch that, I went for something a bit cuter, a cuteness palette cleanser, one might say. So I picked up Shroomie because I thought he looked so damn adorable with his little lily pads, umbrella and his little pouch and things like that. But we're starting off the model, we're doing a bog standard, I'll call it, a bog standard all black primer with a zenithal highlight of titanium white ink through the airbrush. If you're familiar with the channel, it's almost tradition at this point. And then once our zenithal primer is, our zenithal highlight even, has dried out, we take our Vallejo Express colour. Yes, I'm still experimenting with that through the airbrush, and I believe it is plasma red that I'm using at this stage. It's a nice, again, I've used it before, it's a very vibrant, very bright red. It's perfect for kind of what I'm going for with this project, which is a more painterly style. As we're pushing it through the airbrush, it looks very, very almost orange as it comes out. However, the one thing I do love about Vallejo Express colours is that you get a much more massed finish that I've found compared to using other kind of speed paint systems, compared to contrast, compared to army paint, speed paint, things like that. So, on to the next stage now, which was highlighting the mushroom cap of our little fun guy. Haha, see what I did there? I'm going to use that in the title, I'm sorry. A lot of the brushwork that I do on this project is using glaze medium. Pretty much anytime you see me doing brushwork that's not just laying down a basic colour, so any highlights or anything like that, I'm using probably 2 or 3 parts of glaze medium to 1 part of colour. Again, I wanted to go for quite a painterly look with the model. I wanted to let the brushwork kind of define the texture of the model, because it's a very simple model. It does have a number of nice little details, but it's a very simple flat model to work with, and this was a good experiment for that. So I started off using Vallejo Game Colours Bloody Red, and again mixed in with about 2 parts to 1 of Vallejo glaze medium, and I just went around all the ridges, all the kind of the top parts of the mushroom cap. What I wanted to go for while I was doing this is I wanted to make kind of a glossy looking effect on the top of the mushroom cap, and you'll see as I move further and further on, I then begin to introduce a bit of orange fire into the mix, Vallejo Game Colour orange fire into the mix with the bloody red, then some orange fire on its own. Then I introduce some white into the mix, and then finally I just do some tiny little dots on the top of the hat with pure white to make that kind of specular shine. So here now you can see the aforementioned specular highlights with the white. One nice little piece of advice that I can give here is, because we're working with a lot of wet paints from the glaze medium, it does slow down the dry time, not significantly, but a bit more for the work that we're doing. We can actually use the shine of the paint as a guideline as to where to put the specular highlights to give a realistic looking reflection. So it's something to learn from there. And on to the next stage of painting our little mushroom cap. We put on some dots to make it look a little bit more interesting. So here I'm just putting down a base coat of Vallejo Game Color Ghost Grey, and then I simply just take my titanium whiting, fresh on the brush, risky I know, and I use that to highlight the middle of the dots, again to give them a little bit more of a depth. I know on a proper mushroom they are kind of flat on the mushroom, there's not really much texture to them, but we want to use as much of the surface as possible to make the model look a bit more interesting. Not that I'm trying to say that it doesn't look interesting. I think it's a lovely model. I think it's a very cute model. But for the effects that I want to go for when I'm painting, I want to add as much detail through minimal brushwork as possible, if you understand me. So, with us coming to the close of the first live stream session, this took place over, I'd say, 4 live streams. We base coated the rest of the body. This time we're using Army Painter Speed Paint, and we're using the Pallid Bone colour. I like the Pallid Bone colour. It's a nice kind of yellowy brown. Again, it's good for bones, but it's also good for mushroom stalks, it turns out. And we sprayed that over the body, and then we let it leave overnight to dry out. So next day we're on to painting once again, and this time we're going to be focusing on the body of the model. Now remember what I said earlier, I use glaze medium quite a lot in this project. This next stage of highlighting the body, I used one colour, which was Vallejo Game Color Khaki, and I used that over to give 3 different levels of highlights. So this first one, we are just taking our khaki colour and we've mixed it with 2 parts of Vallejo Glaze Medium, and we are just using it as little streaks essentially around the rim of the lips, around the upper part of the body, around the arms. Again, we're just defining a bit of wood grain texture almost into the model. Once that's dried out, we then take that exact same mix that we already have and we begin to once again do another layer of glazing. This time we're staying within the lines that we've previously painted, and we are aiming to basically do our streaks in the middle of those lines. That gives us another level of highlight, another layer of depth onto the model. As you can see, the model's still very glossy at the moment, so what I did while I was waiting for it to dry out was take some good old Vallejo model colour, black, and painted the eyes in. I specifically like the Vallejo model colour black because it is quite a matte black without being one of those black 3.0s, one of those hyper matte blacks. I think it's a very good just base coat black. You don't want too much gloss with it, but we use that to add a bit of soul to the model, a bit of character while we wait for the rest of it to dry, and then we move on to the next step, which is going back to our khaki mix with the 2 parts of glaze medium in, and I basically flooded that mix with water to make a very thinned down glaze solution, and I then begin to tap that basically all over the model. This helps blend the transitions between our first layer of glaze highlight with the darker brown that we applied with the airbrush the night before through the Pallid Bone. And then once that was complete, we then called it a night for that live stream session, because it was going to be an overnight job to make sure that it was all nice and dry, ready for the next stages in the morning, because I didn't want to mess up any of the glaze that I put down all over the model. So we're on to session 3 of our live stream painting spectacular, and if you've made it this far into the video, please consider subscribing to the channel. It would mean a lot to me. I'd just like to thank all of my subscribers over the last 12 months, because we just hit 1,200 subscribers as of yesterday, as of the 13th of November, and honestly at this stage I would have never thought we would have got that far. So genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I know I do it pretty much every video, but it's because I damn well mean it. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you for supporting this content. So for painting the lily pad, we used Vallejo Game Color Camouflage Green, and oh boy, was this a pain in the backside to apply. Remind me not to put green on top of red in future, because we had a little bit of overspray from the plasma red when we put down that initial layer on the mushroom cap of our fun guy. It didn't occur to me at the time that green on red is a pretty tough mix. So it did take several layers which of the camouflage green, which I have, for your own sakes, cut out for you. So don't worry about me spending most of the video just painting the same layer of green over and over and over again. And then for the grass fronds that he's got on kind of the on top of his head, we used Vallejo Game Color Escopena Green, which again, I've said it before, it's really nice, vibrant green. It gives us a bit of variation, so it's just not the same green everywhere. But yeah, I think that kind of helps, again, give this model its more stylized, its more cartoonish style. I also took this as an opportunity, because the camouflage green was taking its sweet time to dry up. I used this as an opportunity to paint in all of the daisies that he's got all over his body, in his head and in his little pouch on the front. How do you paint daisies? You paint it white. This is using just Vallejo Game Color pure white. I think it's pure white. I can't see it on my desk at the moment. As a side note as well, when we hit 2,000 subscribers, we are going to have a desk cleaning stream. Oh my god, exciting, I know. Because I know it's killing a lot of you. Vallejo Game Color Dead White, there we go, that's what I was looking for. So with the camouflage green on the lily pad finally dry, I move on to a little bit of experimentation. I wasn't quite sure how this was going to look, but again, I was quite happy with the result. I took Vallejo Express Colors Lizard Green and I thinned it down, basically got as much of the excess off onto my palette hand as possible, and then I just painted it ever so lightly into the recesses. And then, to highlight the tops of the lily pads, I took Vallejo Game Colors Escopena Green that we'd used on the grass fronds earlier, mixed that in a 3-to-1 mixture with 3 parts glaze medium to 1 part paint, and I just, as similar to the body, I just put down streaks of colour onto the model to give it kind of a painted looking effect. Again, it's something that we were going for with this project. I was actually, out of the whole model, there's one more part of the model which I think I did better, but the lily pad was the part of the model that I thought was going to look the worst, but actually I was quite happy with the result of how it turned out. I also at this point turned one of my lights away from the model because I realised it was glaring on the model so brightly that you couldn't actually see the detail work that was going on, because it was such a gradual transition from the Escopena green to the camouflage green. It wasn't even picking up on the live stream. So yeah, for the rest of the video it'll be a little bit darker, but now you can see how the details are being painted in on top of the lily pad. So with a pretty satisfying result on the lily pad, on the body, on the mushroom cap, and some of the other objects on the model, we then go around basing in the colours for the rest of the model. Very, very simple steps here. So for the belt, I used Vallejo Game Colors Beastly Brown, and for the pants, the trousers, I'm going to call them trousers because I'm British, we use, oh, where is it? What's it called? We use Vallejo Game Colors Somber Grey. I should have known that by now because it's become another one of my staple favourite colours to use in most of my projects. We use the Somber Grey and we mix in just a little bit of Vallejo Game Colors Magic Blue, just to give it a bit of a bluer tinge to it, because I was thinking of jeans, because why wouldn't a mushroom own jeans? We also take this opportunity to paint in the teeny tiny little mushrooms on the top of his mushroom cap. For the stalks of the mushrooms, I couldn't tell you what exactly species I was going for of mushroom. I was going for the white stalk one with the brown top to help it contrast a little bit with the bright red that we've got on the top. I'm no mushroom expert. I know someone who is. I will ask them, I promise. But for the stalk of the mushroom, we are using Vallejo Game Colour Bone White. That's right. Not going to project without using Vallejo Game Colours Bone White. And for the top of the mushroom, we are just using the same khaki that we used on the body. And whilst we're doing this, we also take the time to paint in the stones. I'm pretty uninspired when it comes to painting pebbles, so I just use Vallejo Game Colours Cold Grey, and then I highlighted it with just a little bit of a cold grey and white mix. Again, we're constantly checking our work all the time, just to make sure it's heading in the right direction. So now at this point I figured, okay, the details on the top of the mushroom cap are looking nice, but we need to add a bit more depth to them. So I take our Vallejo Game Wash. It's the black dip. It's a very big pot. It's not really great as a dipping solution. However, it is a good alternative to Nuln Oil because it's much cheaper for the volume you get, and it's a very similar effect. It's more like the old Nuln Oil as opposed to the recent reformulation that Citadel did, if you are as anal as me. I recommend it. I think it's a good paint, especially for the price to pint that you get for it. You get a nice big tub of it. But we basically pin line around all of the physical parts that attach to the body. So we do it around the belt, around the belt buckles, we do it around the arms where they're kind of scrunched up against his little body, and we do it around the stones as well. So with the pin wash in place, we then go back to highlighting his belt and his little panties. What we do is we just simply take our Vallejo Game Colour Dead White and we mix that in with the initial colours that we painted those parts of the model, and we just do it as little streaks down from the top of the edge. This helps to give a kind of a weathered and worn look to what we're painting. So I was thinking in my head, I want to kind of slightly torn leather. I'm a big fella and I get through belts sometimes and I can tell when they're going and when cracks begin to form in the belt. But that is kind of the effect I was going for with his belt. He's a paunchy little fella. So with those details highlighted, we take one more opportunity. We're going to revisit all of the petals around the daisies and we're going to paint them with another layer of white. Make sure that there's a clear definition between the daisy and the edge of the model. And we also take our Vallejo Game Colour Moon Yellow and we use that to highlight the centre of each daisy, just to punch up that yellow a little bit, because we all know painting yellow is a pain in the bottom. We also take this opportunity to do a little edge highlight along the frond of the lily pad. Once again, using the Escorpina green, we also pick out the little welts that are on top of it as well. Again, giving the model a bit more depth, a bit more character, a bit more personality. That's the whole kind of point of this process that we're looking at today. So now we're on to detailing the final part of the model, and actually this is the part of the model that I feel the most proud of. I don't know if anyone else gets this way, where they paint a model that they think is really good, but actually their favourite part of the model is something very mundane, like a brown little pouch. So I have a pot of Citadel Dryad bark. I used to have a terrible habit of mixing water straight into my Citadel pots. So as a result, I've got a very watered down pot of Dryad bark. I used that, I applied that as a base layer, brown over brown, so I wasn't too worried about having to do two coats, but it meant that we had an incredibly long drying time to work with. So it's time to do a bit of wet blending. So to do the wet blending, I took our khaki colour. I think, no, it wasn't. We used a Vallejo Game Extra Opaque Heavy Brown, in fact, as our blending colour. And we just took a little bit, rubbed the excess off on our finger palette, thumb palette, and we just painted it within the highlight areas. Once I'd removed most of the paint off the brush, I then used the brush to work it in with the dryad bark that we already had wet on the model to blend it onto the model straight away. I then took a little bit of white paint, mixed that in with the Vallejo Game Extra Opaque Heavy Brown. That's a mouthful and a half. And I did the same process again, but this time only picking out kind of the top left of the little pouch and the edge highlights of the little pouch as well. The key here when you're working with wet blending is being able to be confident to go back and forth between steps. Fortunately, I was quite happy with the initial layer of the dryad bark. However, I did go back and forth a little bit between the heavy brown and the heavy brown white mix. Then to finalise the pouch, once I was kind of happy with the blends I had, I took some of the heavy brown white mix on the tip of my brush. I essentially sharpened the brush. I took it into a point on my hands, and then I used that to paint in a couple of scratches onto the top of the pouch, again adding to the weathered look on the rest of the model. So we're coming up to the end of the project now. I did do a base for this model, and I'll be quite frank for you, it'll be zipping over in the background footage right now. I wasn't particularly proud of it. There's nothing there I could really show you. It's very much teaching you to suck eggs, and again, it wasn't to my standard. I just wanted to get him sitting on something at the end of the day. But thank you for joining me on this video. Again, if you are interested in watching the live streams, feel free to join the Discord on the link below, or follow me at twitch.tv/wiggle987. I will be live streaming on YouTube. However, YouTube doesn't tend to push the live streams out too much. And on top of that, I don't want to spam my channel up with VODs, so I won't be uploading the VODs, just so you know. Maybe something we can do for an alternate channel in the future if there's demand for it. But yeah, so if you've made it this far into the video, I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek on what we're working on next. It is Persephone, Death Reborn, and it's a fantastic model. It was a model by Lila Mev, the Mini Witch, and we'll be working on that over our next few live stream sessions. This is a big experiment for me in terms of using the Dirty Down line of products. I've got the Moss, I've got the Russ, and I've got the Verdigris all ready to go. But thank you for joining me on this video. I hope you have a wonderful day. And bye-bye for now. Bye.